Have you checked the children? You're a little mad sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes. That is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
And you got Jaime Fuego here.
And we are back with another comic book review. And this is another horror comic book, you guys. This is one that is actually based on a short story by someone that we've been covering recently on this channel, which is very directly related to Fuego's, I was going to say obsession, but I don't want to be rude about it.
They're my obsession.
Fuego's focus, Stephen
King
King.
family.
So yeah, so who is this Fuego that we're talking about?
Yes, we got Joe Hill, and this is a book adapted from a short story of his that was originally collected in 20th Century Ghosts. It's called The Cape. It honestly has some similar vibes to Brightburn if you're down for just like a dark superhero and, you know, what with the possession of power somebody a little more negative state in their mind could potentially do. So,
Yeah, and it's a really interesting. So it started off with a one shot that was done in 2010, and then they followed it up with a 4-issue series in 2011, which I guess this is what the short story was as you were explaining it, and this is what expanded on that. So there's something in here that some might be considered spoilerish, and Fuego and I talked about it a bit before we recorded, and there's certain things that I consider a spoiler and certain things that he considers a spoiler, and we're kind of opposing viewpoints on that. But realistically, what happens at the end of this is the tease. It's what brings you in for the whole story. So that's why I didn't consider it as much of a spoiler. So
yeah, because the one shot's end is what really, and the one shot is just a straight up adaptation of the original short story, and it's about this guy who is suddenly down on his luck, moving back in with his mother.
Well,
and
not
stuff.
Suddenly. He's kind of a loser.
Yeah, he's a loser, but he is like he's at his lowest, I guess is a better way of putting it, because of the fact that he had this amazing girlfriend that he kind of stole initially from his brother, and moving back in with Mama Bear and everything, and he seemingly discovers this cape that actually, if you flash back to his childhood, has some significance, because he swears that at one particular point where he jumped off a tree while playing with his brother, older brother, if I'm not mistaken, that he was able to fly at least for a second before taking the smash down and being just permanently having like ringing in his ear and like different like head trauma and issues and stuff like that. And
this is that fateful spread right there.
Exactly.
So he jumps off the tree, he kind of floats for a second and is like, what? And then he pulls himself out of his cape and falls, and the cape just kind of floats there. And
he takes a nasty injury, which is very gorily done in the comic, and I thought it was...
that's pretty aggressive right there.
Yeah, some of my favorite stuff in this book is the artwork, actually. You know,
and just to give
very, very well done.
Credit where credit's due, right? We should definitely do that. Well, I think this is at the end of the book, so we'll credit at the end here. But we flash forward to adulthood, and that's the last we heard of the cape, because after that, his mom threw away the cape, or
she
said she threw away the cape, indeed. And so the boys are kind of left to decide, was that real, was it not? And they just kind of move on and live their lives. Eric, the one who was in the cape, becomes a bit of a loser, while Nick grows up to be a doctor and works at the local hospital. And so his brother constantly feels like a loser. He still lives with their he lives with his girlfriend, who, you know, is getting fed up with his BS. He still has a mom that still cares about him and everything, and
that's who he ends up with, you know, after their little breakup.
Yep, and they break up right here.
The cape, you know?
And when he's sleeping in the basement of his mom's house, smoking a doobie there in the basement, one night when he's asleep, he reaches over and pulls over a blanket, which turns out to be the cape, and before he realizes it, suddenly he's floating. And he realizes that it's the cape, and so he puts it on and tries it, and then he's like, oh, I can have some fun with this.
Yes.
And so he decides to go and fly around, and it's a very wish fulfillment kind of comic. It's really gorgeous, it's fun, and it's like, what would you do? Because, you know, look, let's be honest, there's more of us that are schlubby strugglers than there are Ivy League success stories, so to speak.
Higher achievers.
And so this is kind of what that is, and so he goes in this first issue to show his ex, whom is kind of in the middle of a conversation with someone else. We assume his brother, perhaps, because it turns out that he actually stole her from him.
Yes.
And then they go for a little flight, and what happens, Fuego?
I guess if we're gonna drop that, and
we're gonna drop that spoiler.
We're gonna drop that spoiler because it's like the big twist of.
It's the catalyst for the whole story.
It honestly is, and it's the big twist of the short story catalyst of the one shot going into the 4-issue series. He is very resentful about the fact that she dropped him, because he doesn't say dumped him.
Right.
He says dropped him. You dropped me like I was nothing. Blah blah blah. Says it all the time. Interesting change, and he just, after Lois Laning it like the original Christopher Reeve Superman and flying her around and wooing her and all this other stuff. He's just like...
He's like, hey, who were you talking to when I arrived just a few minutes ago? And she's like, oh, no one, just a friend. And he's like, oh, really? Psh! And he's just like, no, sorry, you're full of it.
Yeah.
And so, he goes ahead and he's like, I just want you to know what it feels like. And he drops her. And, the final page. Look at how awesome that is. How anti-superhero the last page of this issue is.
And that's where I get the Brightburn vibes, especially, is with just like feeling valiant after incurring such carnage and craziness, man.
Well, he's so bad at everything in life, he realizes that the one thing he's good at is being a terrible person. And it's such a really cool storyline, quite frankly. It's really disturbing and really sad and pessimistic, but it is a demonstration of what today's society kind of would be. Oh, and let me actually, I didn't give proper credit here when they show the credits at the end.
And as you look for that, though, it's something he hints at doesn't hint at, he spells it out specifically in the follow-up 4-issue series. He says that when him and his brother were playing superheroes when they were kids, he was always the bad guy.
Yeah. So here you go. The credits are right there at the very beginning, actually. Written by Jason Chiaramella, and it is based on the short story The Cape by Joe Hill. The art is by Zach Howard.
Really good.
Colors by Nelson Daniel. Letters by Robbie Robbins. And that the creative team carries through for the entire series. So there are 3 series total. There's this first Cape series. There's the Cape 1969, and then there's the Cape The Fallen. We are going to review the first 2 tonight, and the next one next weekend after Fuego reads it. I've already read it. But that leads us to the 4-issue follow-up. Now, this is where we're not going to start being spoilerific. That issue was literally meant to draw you into the series.
Yeah.
That's the only reason why I don't consider it spoilerific. Otherwise, what are we going to say? He starts being bad. No, that's how bad he is, and that's why you want to read his story.
Yeah, and you made a very good point to me off camera beforehand in the fact that knowing a superhero's like secret power and where it comes from, even if it's revealed in the short story, because it's revealed in the short story by Joe Hill, it's better to space things out. It's hinted at on the second
fully
page,
revealed in the actual second series, though.
Yeah, that had nothing to do with Joe,
right? So they, but at the same time, we had to be careful about what we're revealing. So this issue literally picks up, and I'll show you the first or the cover of each of the issues as we go along.
They're all really cool.
Same creative team, but this one picks up where the police are investigating the death of Angie.
Yeah, they're looking at the autopsy for Angie and everything.
Well, and his brother at the hospital, being a doctor, goes and checks the body and finds out just how much damage. I mean, listen to this. The amount of damage.
It's insane.
18 of her 24 ribs are broken, 10 of which pierced her lungs. Her skull has multiple fractures, and her spinal column is completely severed halfway down her back. Both legs and one arm are broken, all 3 resulting in compound fractures. Her jaw is shattered and unhinged on both sides.
Yeah, and that's
from that one drop, and you saw that page. That's what really stuck with me about this. It is an unrelenting series, and it's like, yes, it is Brightburn before Brightburn. What would happen if someone with the powers of flight really, really, used them in the most horrible way?
Yeah, had a mean streak, in all honesty. And that's what this Eric character really, really has. I mean, he is so fed up and aggravated with where his life has gone after that injury, falling out of the tree, and just different head problems and all this other stuff. Yeah, he obviously has some significant head problems if, this is what he is, proceeding to do. And it's really him just kind of, without spoiling too much, trying to cover his footsteps because an investigation begins.
Yeah, the two detectives show up
flight path,
trying to figure out what happened, Angie being his ex, and he goes home to his mom, who, unfortunately for her, finds out at the end of this issue what the deal is. Yeah. But this leads to the craziness of, like, when I read this, like, the first issue, the one-shot, I picked up off the rack. I was like, ooh, the cape, superheroes, let me try it. And I was floored by it. I was like, this is horror superheroes? I gotta read more. So when I got to this, there was something that happens with a bear in this that's so crazy that I was just like, this is over the top, Mark Miller, kick-ass kind of level of insanity that I love.
That's where it went almost too crazy for me, was with the bear bit. But then when there's another beat that reminded me very much of The Boys, actually, The Boys TV series specifically. The Boys also being another thing you could compare this to as far as tone and vibe, and just like using your powers for evil, and just really not being as gracious and self-serving for so many others.
And then at the end of the first issue, we do see that he lands, and unfortunately his mom catches a glimpse of it, which does not spell the best things for his mom.
Yeah, not at all. And she's in denial about it, although she does in turn go and see the It essentially turns into him going after his brother and his mother.
Anyone that can incriminate him.
Yeah, exactly. Anyone who could connect him with the first crime that
Beautiful
he did.
Artwork, though. Look at this.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
And let's talk briefly, because again, some people criticize comic book reviewers of just recapping the comic book. Let's actually review it. So, story-wise, I think that this is an extremely engaging plot and story, and I think it's told well. It's not super dense. Some people might call it, deconstructed, maybe, or not deconstructed, but there's a term for it in comics that's like D something or other, but it's just not as dense as Watchmen and stuff like that. No, there's a specific term, but I just can't think of it.
It's definitely not Alan Moore.
No, it's not Alan Moore. It's not. You can see there's a lot of pages that really just play with the artwork and have some fun and just let the art tell the story. And this is and I really like that. And look at the artwork is gorgeous. The heavy shadows, the sketch-like look, and I mean,
rainfall.
The rainfall, him hovering over the. It's just really beautifully done in a dark, dank. I mean, look at the color palette is drab and dreary. It's except for the memory of him as a kid. It's bright and colorful, but all the colors are drab and dreary now. Because
that's what his current state epitomizes, and so for that reason, that's how he sees everything. That's how all of it is presented, and I mean, he is just so. I don't know. He's very resentful, obviously, of his older brother and the success that he has seen, and that
eventually comes down to a confrontation where he's holding his mom around the neck, and his brother shows up, and they want to play. He wants to play superheroes again, and unfortunately, things don't go well for his brother, who likes to be a character called the Red Streak. Yeah. And so, it becomes a big throwdown, and unfortunately. Even though they get the drop briefly on Eric, he is unrelenting in his follow-through. Look at what you see, a cop that's guarding his house.
Yeah, the cinder block.
And suddenly a cinder block just smashes his face from the sky.
Yeah, not as vicious as the bear
aggressive.
bit, but
aggressive.
Nonetheless.
And so he goes and collects a chainsaw. Yeah. But what he does with the chainsaw...
And that's where I made the Boys connection, because of what he does there. And something that Homelander does in that...
Homelander, It's surprising. It didn't really need to be a chainsaw in this particular case.
Not exactly.
But let me show the cover here.
Where it's tougher
now we start to get spoilerific.
Spoil.
Look at how gorgeous that cover is, though. Oh, God, look at... Because he's highlighted, and it's like a painted background of the tree and everything.
And there's lots of alternate covers and stuff too.
Tons of alternate
covers. Which you see in the trade. Yeah. Maybe that's something I should try to grab right here.
Go ahead.
But this is
here's a little 2-page spread that kind of shows what his goals are. How dope is that? So good. So good. Yeah,
but the one
this
thing-
story is just, it's, some might call it mean-spirited.
It is definitely mean-spirited, and I'm honestly okay.
Fair enough.
No, I'm honestly okay with that because I feel like it's with power, with great power comes great responsibility,
Yeah.
obviously, and there are those who use it for ill means, and this is a perfect example of that. And Joe Hill, who also wrote a Spider-Man story, it was his first published thing he ever did, was a one-shot Spider-Man story, you know, and I would imagine he took a lot of that love and adoration into consideration about, like, the dark underbelly of what would happen if somebody was just using... I mean, I know Garth Ennis was putting out The Boys right about the same time as this, and so I'm not sure if Joe derived any inspiration from looking at that dark side of superheroes.
I don't think it's a wholly unique idea. You know, what would happen if
not.
someone really bad got powers, and that's kind of what this is. So here's the cover for issue number 4. I like that he doesn't even care. It's all ripped up jeans and stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
I
he's
mean,
not about impressing.
Yeah,
anyone.
we've got some, like, slightly kiddie versions of alternate covers here. We've also got much more hyper realistic, like this painted looking one, which is right there,
gorgeous.
which I think is really cool. And then him also just, you know, very... He's
Damn, now you're making me want that hardcover.
washing his cape and everything.
Damn. And then there's a big confrontation between brothers on the top of the Prudential building in the end, and the last issue here, again, without spoiling anything.
Yeah, I do like this cover on the right. I like the close-up on the face, but that one where he's...
That's gorgeous on
like,
the left.
yeah,
Oh,
with
is that
all-
with the chainsaw?
Yes, with all the rain and everything.
Yeah.
I didn't even notice the chainsaw bit until you mentioned it just now.
And here's a really cool, another 2-page spread that's really neat. Really gorgeous stuff.
Yeah.
Couple of images that made me think of Skinner Sweet, honestly.
Yeah,
This
a
right
little
here.
bit. And him smoking the doobie there in that
Yep.
particular one,
Yep,
as you can
that's
see.
great. So yeah, guys, I
It's a
mean,
good
without
read,
spoiling
man.
the rest of this, I mean, this is a fantastic little 5-issue read. It reads fast too.
Yeah, I
Honestly,
think I read
you
it
can
in
get
about
through
an
this in
hour.
an hour. Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
But it is totally worth your time. And so you got the nice hardcover.
Yes.
I got the actual individual issues.
You were dedicated way, but like he read this long before I did.
Yeah, I couldn't help. I got it in 2000. This was 2010, and then the rest were 2011. So I got them in those years and read them off the rack.
Because Lock and Key was already going, right?
Lock and Key started after this came out. This came out before Lock and Key.
Because it says from the writer of Lock and Key on the...
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it started with this one. No, I guess you're right. Lock and Key must have come out, but just barely. It was the same year. It was 2010.
It was where they were trying to like
So
double
I thought
down.
this was first, but you're right, since that's on there.
It was
Writer
where
of
they were
Lock
trying
and
to
Key,
double
you're
down on his
100%
presence. And this is also before he had any like big novel success at this particular point. He was like a household name.
Well, so
in the
technically he
UK.
wrote the short story first, and then he wrote Lock and Key. So yeah, technically it's from the creator of Lock and Key, but he wrote this first.
Yeah.
So, you know, take that take that at whatever you want.
Yeah, but I
so.
mean, 20th Century Ghost was initially published in the UK. It was like they gave him his big break, aside from comic books, was over in the UK.
Nice.
He was a comic book guy in North America. Nobody knew anything about anything else he was doing, even like heart-shaped box and whatever. It just wasn't a big thing. So he is ascended, which is pretty dope. He's very talented.
It's a fantastic short story to base a really cool, again, anti-superhero story. Those of you that like superhero stories and like different ones, like ones that you're not expecting to know what's going on. If you watched The Boys and were like, oh, this is so unique and fresh, I wish there was more stuff like this, go get your hands on the Cape.
Yeah,
That's
great.
worth your time.
It's
so
terrific.
next up, we're going to be reviewing that one there. Fuego, show them.
Indeed. Of course, I also have the hardcover in this, because, yeah.
That is the Cape 1969.
So the one thing that we will at least say is
The
that...
Cape Vietnam, in other words.
Yeah, and the reason for that is because you find out at the very beginning of the story that his father died in Vietnam, and this is tracing some things back without spoiling stuff. So
Indeed.
yeah.
So look forward to that review coming in the very near future. Thank you guys very much for watching this one. If you've read The Cape, let us know in the comments down below what your thoughts are, or if it sounds interesting to you. Are you going to go seek it out? Let us know that as well. I'm always curious to know if our reviews influence people to go discover new comics. So if so, thank you very much. We greatly appreciate it. It's nice that these don't go unnoticed by some people. So
yeah, the trade is reasonably priced on Amazon and eBay right now. I think you can get it
Nice.
for like around 10, like $12, something like that.
Beautiful.
It's not too terrible. So.
beautiful. So that's going to do it, you guys. If you enjoyed the video, click the like button and subscribe, and ding that notification bell to make sure you don't miss the next review of the Cape. There's going to be 2 more coming, the Cape 1969 and then the Cape The Fallen, which the issues are over there, but you'll see those when we review those.
I don't know if we have a trade for that one yet.
No trade for the... Well, I think the trade is out.
Ooh.
I think it is out. Because the actual book finished in July. So I think at this point it's got to be out.
Dope. Okay.
So yeah, that's going to be coming soon. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you're down by if you're clicking the like button and you're near the description box, there is a link to the Patreon down there if you want to become a patron and request movies or even horror comics for us to review. You can have us do that. Yeah, absolutely. So feel free to click that link and join up to have us do that. But until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
And gracias, Jaime, and Fuego.
And remember, stay scared.